zoom down to this connection here, and we go to the TSD connections menu and select copy connection. First step, you need to collect the plate which will put the connection name in underneath here, and we select the point to which we're going to insert it on, which will be this one, and then select the member to which it's going into, and this is a sub part, but it'll collect the assembly, weldment assembly. If you click that and then click any other part off to the side, because we don't have any bracing, it'll still place the connection for us. Okay, so that's copied the connection for us, and for that to work we've actually got to go in and change the mates and change that from perpendicular to coincident, and we need to flip it. Okay, that will place that connection in there. Alright, so if we go up into TSD members, beams, and select the third beam in the row, and we click that line there, and that'll insert that beam with the fin plates. And we do it again. Oops, I must have accidentally clicked that off. We'll do that again. So beams, select that beam, select that line, and we just do these three beams in parallel. And select that beam. Okay, that's the three beams. Now we need to copy the fin plate connections out of each beam. And to do that, if you go TSD connections, copy connection, select the plate to which the connection is contained, the point to which it is to be inserted on, the member to which it's going into, and then the mating connection member. So let's put a connection in over the top of that connection, and we do the same thing for this one here too. TSD connections, copy connection, select the plate, point it's going into. Be careful not to select the dummy components in the other connections. Select the member and then the mating member. Let's put that connection in, and then we go down and select the next one. So TSD connections, copy connection, select the plate, the point at which it's being inserted onto, the member it's going into, and then the connecting mating member. Okay, so that's the three connections inserted. What we need to do now is update this beam and the beam drawing that's associated to that beam. And to update that beam is as simple as opening it up. You'll notice all the connections. Now at the moment we can select these connections. In some instances it's not possible. If you can't select your connection, simply suppress the connection and then unsuppress it, and then you'll be able to edit your connection. What we need to do here is ensure that our plates that we have here are included in the bill of materials, so that when we do our member lockdown, the plates will show. So to do that and to test that is quite simple really. If we select the plate and then include in bill of materials, select the plate and then include in bill of materials, and select that plate and include in the bill of materials. This one should already be included in the bill of materials because it was a copy, and it is. Just checking through the processes. So now the other thing that we need to do here is just by selecting the bolts that we have, and we suppress them because we don't need them in these connections. The bolts actually belong to the bolting beam that is coming in at that point. By suppressing them, you're not loading them into memory unnecessarily. Okay, so now we're just going to just do a Control Q and a Control S just to save. The Control Q is a rebuild. And we go to the TSD utilities and we click on hide excluded components, and that'll just let us know which ones get left behind, and we've got the right members, plates and so forth left over. Okay, so that looks like that's worked very well. So now we're going to bring them back. And the reason I'm bringing back is because I'm going to use this beam again in another location. Okay, so that's the beam updated. What we also need to do now is just open up the drawing that's associated to it by right mouse clicking in the screen, and you'll notice there's a significant change to the drawing now because the template itself was just a simple, easy one, and now we're a little bit more complicated. We've got all our dummy members coming through. So let's tidy up the dummy members by clicking on TSD utilities and then hide excluded components in drawing. So that'll remove all the dummy members and hide them from the drawing. As you can see, it goes through each view and then removes them. Okay, so next step is for us to just do some more tidy work here. If you've got a view that's over the top of another view, if you hold your Alt key down, you can actually grab that view in underneath and move it out. Hold the Alt key down and use your left mouse key and drag. Okay, so I'm just going to move these dimensions down here, like that. And I'm just going to move this over. Those mark numbers that you see there are template mark numbers, as this is just a template at this stage and all the components are templates. Okay, so we need to add some dimensions in. If you hold your right mouse key down and select dimension by doing that, or alternatively you can go up to the top left and select dimension under sketch. I'm just going to add some dimensions to locate this plate. You can, however, add center marks to your plate to make it look nice. The next thing to select is this mark number, and if you copy that, it's actually linked to the custom properties in the part, and you'll notice that it changes when I copy and paste. That was a simple Control C, Control V. Okay, now we need to add some dimensions to these three cleats. Same process, right mouse click, drag up your mouse and select the cleats. And you can use ordinate dimensions if you like, it's up to you on your drafting technique. Okay, so now we need to add a section. So if we just double click on that view and draw ourselves a line under the sketch and click on view layout under the command manager and click section, it's telling us that we're going to do a partial section cut, and that's correct, so click yes. We need to flip the direction to which we're doing our section, click OK, drag it out to the left. Okay. Now I'm not too fussed about the text, it's a bit large. You can change that in your drafting standards. I usually generally just remove it. And I'm just going to remove some of these extra lines that are in here that are unnecessary. These are center lines. Now we need to break the alignment, so if you right mouse click that view, alignment, break alignment, and we're going to put it up the top. The scale of that section can also be changed if you scroll down and you click on use custom scale and go 1 to 10, and that makes it nice and big. We then can bring this down. Now you'll also notice under the section you need to grab the letter, and sometimes it's not that easy, but if you can grab it, you'll move the letter away from the dimension like I just did then. A little bit of perseverance will allow you to move that. That one was easy. Sometimes I've had harder ones. Also too, these three cleats we need to put some marking on them, so I'm just going to copy that by Control C and paste it up the top. Now at the moment those three cleats are individual cleats, they've got their own mark numbers, and when we run a lockdown, TSD will check the plates to see if they're identical. If they are, they'll swap them out and make them all the same. So at the end of the day those cleats are the same, so we're just going to put a quantity there, so when it does swap it out we'll get 3 times instead of 1 for that cleat, and we've covered all the marks rather than marking all of them. It's a quicker technique. Now this up here we're going to have to add some extra items to it, so if we click sketch we need to add a center line. You can either draw your center line in or you can use the annotation and just use your center line from there. If you select the 2 bottom edges of the beam and then select the internal edges, if you can see it, let's just put that center line in there. That'll allow us to add some dimensions to some of the plate work, just to let people know what the offsets are, the fabricator, so the fabricator know. And with that we're able to dimension our cleats. Now I don't need to put that one on because that's a back plate. What it means is I don't particularly want to see everything that goes through, so I'm just going to put a section depth cut in there and just pick up these 2 plates because that's all I want in my section. So we're going to do a rebuild. You'll notice up on the section view here that particular extra plate in the background is now gone, and it's just included the 2 plates that were in there. I'm just going to add some center marks to that cleat to make it look good. Actually make it look like it's got holes. And we can grab the same mark we've got here and put that there so that we've got quantities included in our marking, and pull that up into there and just drag it out a little bit. Now for labeling, if you put your text in over the top and type in section, we want to make it capitals because that's good practice, and then in there we can put in the actual view name. In this case we can scroll down and we can see view name. Okay, and then that copies the whole thing so you don't have to type in the section, and then in underneath that we can put in the scale. So same thing again, view scale, there it is. Now you can center that up so that that comes in on center, and you can change the scale so that it matches what you need. Now you can save that as a format or a text. At the moment I'm just showing you how to do that. So automatically if you grab from your library you can drag and drop that text in and it'll automatically pick up the view and put the information on there for you. At the moment I've just done that from scratch. Okay, so that shows you how to put a section in, and that pretty much concludes the details for that drawing. And alternatively, just a couple of other things you can do. If you select the center line and select view, it'll put center lines in on all your plates. It's a bit messy because then you've got to go through and just remove all the center lines that you don't want in there, and that's what I'm going to do now. I don't want them shown. And it also picks up the radiuses of the dummy components that are hidden as well, so you want to remove those centers and the radiuses for your beam. So it picks up every center that you have in your model. So with this in mind, just remember that there's a little bit of work in tidying that up. The bottom view is a lot easier. If you select that, select view, it'll put it all in, and there's only just a couple of lines that you have to remove in this instance, below and above. But the drawing at the end of the day will look good. Remove our bracing. That's picked up the radiuses of the brace as well. Okay, and that's that drawing template completed. Okay, I'm just going to check this plate and make sure we've got enough room because it's got to grow a little bit. So I'm just going to pull it down to there, just enough room to put a bill of materials on there. Also too, while I'm at it, I may as well check these plates to make sure that they're okay as well, and that's fine. So they're just doing some basic checks. Okay, so now we need to complete the floor by putting in the two extra, what we call trimmers, onto these two lines. And to do that, if you go to TSD members and then beams and scroll down, the fourth beam on the list, it's got fin plate connections at either end, and then select the segment and then click the tick and inserts that member, and we'll do the same for the other side. Scroll back down again, select the member and select the line. And because these are fin plates, we have to go through the process again of copying connections. So if we rotate around, TSD, copy connection, select the plate, select the point we're inserting it on, the member that it's going into, and then the mating member. Okay, so let's put that in. Same with this one. Connections, copy connection, select the plate, select the point it's going into, the member that's going onto, and then the mating member. So that one's in there. And if we rotate around, we also have to do it on the other opposite ends of those two beams as well. So TSD connections, copy connection, select the plate, select the point that it's on, the member that's going into, and then the mating member. And if you accidentally get a beam that flips, all we have to do is just select on the member that you see at the opposite end, go to mates, see the perpendicular one, just click on that and edit the feature, and we need to change it so that you actually turn it around. So 2 steps, you can delete it, put in a right and front mate by clicking on the front planes, and now you should be able to flip, and we can. That fixes that connection. We've got to do the other one as well. Copy connection, select the plate, the insertion point, the member that it's going into, and then the mating member. Same scenario. If you right mouse click, click on that with your left mouse click and then click perpendicular. You can either edit it or delete it. In this case, it's quicker just to delete the mate. Select the member, the dummy member in the connection, and go up, and in that member we need to scroll to the top to select the beam to which we're going to edit. So you need to edit the assembly. It has to be in blue. So the front plane and the front plane, add the mate, and in this case we'll make them parallel, and then we can flip the mate. The mating itself is standard SolidWorks functionality. So those two beams now have cleats inside them. So we need to go through and update those two beams, and we also need to go through and update this beam to ensure that that beam's drawing is okay. So I'm just doing a check on that beam, and you'll notice the cleats have moved. And to fix that, we need to select the section depth and make it a little bit longer. I know that there are going to be some cleats over here for stairs in the future, so I'm just expanding mine out to that point, and that brings the cleat back into the picture over here. So that updates that drawing. Now we need to go to these two beams and update those two. So if we open up the drawing that's associated to that, we've got some dummy connections in there now that need to be removed. So you go to the TSD utilities, and then in drawings, hide excluded components. Okay, now we've noticed that there are some dummy components here that have come up. So to do that, to fix that, we just go into the model, and if you cannot select the actual connections, it means that we need to suppress them and then unsuppress them to bring them back in again. Okay, so now we can select them. So that means that in that drawing, we need to go through that process again. But before we do that, we should really include the plates in the BOM. That way they won't disappear. You should do that first. And now suppress the bolts because they're not going to be as part of this member. Okay, so now let's just do a quick check and ensure that everything functions the way it should. Hide excluded components, and the two cleats are exposed. So go back to utilities and show the excluded components. And that beam is ready. So we can go back and update the drawing now. Click on TSD Utilities, hide excluded components in the drawing. Once that's done, we can add a couple of dimensions just to finalize it. So this member here needs a center line through the middle of it. So if I go to annotation, pick that edge, and that one's already got it, so then we can select it. From there to there we've got our offset, and from there to there we've got a set down for the top hole. These two center marks here are for the radiuses on the cuts. No, they're actually for the hole, sorry. Okay, so now we grab the annotation and we add the annotation to the plate. We also need to add some dimensions. Now you can either use normal dimensions by doing that and selecting the end, or you can use ordinate dimensions as I have mentioned before. So there are two cleats and they will be identical when we do a member lock, so I'm only just going to put one annotation there. I'm going to put a quantity on it so it'll show up when the time comes. It'll point to that there are two, and I'll do the same thing with this one so that that has that there as well. We can also add in center lines, just make the drawing pretty so that they can see what's actually happening, and just removing the extra center lines for radiuses of the dummy components that are in the background, because SolidWorks puts in radiuses for items that are hidden as well. Okay, and that one there, we need to do the same here, just remove that one, and over here remove the radius one. Okay, so that concludes that drawing. We do the same thing for the other drawing on the other beam on the opposite side. We need to open that up and ensure that we have our bill of materials included, our plates included in the bill of materials. And while we're at it, need to suppress the bolts because they don't belong to this beam, and we also need to include that into the bill of materials and suppress those bolts. So we'll just do a quick check to ensure that those cleats are going to remain when we do a hide, well, a lock on the member, and everything seems to be fine. So we'll just show them back again. So now if we open the drawing up, we can go in and clean up the drawing. If we go to the utilities, select hide excluded components in drawings. Okay, so that's done. Need to add some dimensions to locate those plates. Okay, need to add an annotation. Now we only need to add one as previously mentioned for the marking. Okay, also over here we have some dimensions we can add. So I'm just placing in center lines. Copy the annotation for the mark and a quantity so that we can see that there are more than one. Put some holes in on the cleat. Okay, so that's that drawing done. Now you could add center lines. I'll do that so that we've got them. A little bit of tidy up work involved when you do that. If your center lines don't disappear, just get Control Q and then they will disappear. Okay, there's a couple of extra center lines in here we need to remove. In here we need to remove. Now alternatively we could have just selected the holes and put center lines in one by one, but I wanted to pick up all the other center lines that weren't there as well. So those two, and this is picking up all the radiuses as well. Okay, so that's that drawing done. Okay, so that's that beam done. And now we have all of our beams on the floors updated. We just need to do a quick check on these just to make sure that those drawings are okay. And they look like they're going to be. Just a bit of tidy up on the notes. Center. Just a little bit of a tidy view. I'm just going to move that over there so that we've got it updated. Okay, so now the next step is to just check that member there. Make sure that that's right. So that looks like that's okay. Check this member here, open that drawing up. That looks like that's alright. I'm just positioning it just to tidy up the templates to make sure that when we do a member lockdown, everything's fine. I've just selected that member there. I'm just going to select the weldment member drawing and open that up as well. You'll notice that there are two drawings for the same item. One is at the weldment level, so if there's any cleats, they will be shown in this drawing. The previous drawing is a section drawing, and you'll notice there's no hole dimensions in here. Those dimensions are in the section drawing. You can combine them in the one. It's up to you on how you want to do your drafting. At the end of the day, the templates are there to help you so that you can move forward faster.